Okay, so you know how we like to go deep on some pretty wild stuff on these deep dives, right?
Absolutely.
Well, you've brought something truly unique this time around.
Yeah.
We're looking at a file straight from the SCP Foundation,
Oh, very cool.
all about this object they call SCP-005.
Interesting.
Now, for anyone out there who's not familiar with the SCP Foundation, think of it like this.
Okay.
It's this huge online world of collaborative fiction, like a giant shared story.
Okay.
But it's presented in this very specific way, very scientific, very official sounding.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Makes it feel like you're reading actual classified documents about real anomalies.
Right, and that's part of what makes it so compelling, I think.
Exactly. It draws you in and you start to think, what if?
Right, like what if this organization really existed and these strange things were out there?
Exactly. So this file you brought about, SCP-005, it's one of their entries.
It is.
And our mission today is to kind of unpack it just based on what's in the file.
Yeah.
See what we can learn about this object, its properties, and why it's so interesting.
Sounds good to me.
So when you first read through this, what stood out to you about SCP-005?
Well, the first thing that struck me was the description, the initial appearance of the object.
Okay.
Because it's surprisingly mundane.
Mhm.
You know, you go into this expecting something extraordinary,
Right.
but it's just an ornate key.
Yeah.
Nothing particularly special about it.
Yeah, they even say it looks like a mass-produced key from the 1920s.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't immediately jump to, oh, this must be some powerful artifact or something.
Like the opposite of what you'd expect.
Exactly. And that contrast, I think that's what makes it so interesting right from the start.
Yeah, you get lulled into this sense of normalcy and then bam.
Yeah. And then you read about how it was discovered.
Oh, right.
And that's where things get really weird.
What happened?
So apparently this key was used by a civilian, just a regular person,
Okay.
to infiltrate a high security facility.
What?
Yeah, they just walked right in as if they had the proper authorization.
No way.
And that's what immediately raises all these questions.
Like,
Right? How did this person even get their hands on this key?
yeah.
And what kind of facility were they trying to break into?
And the biggest question of all.
Yeah, how did a seemingly ordinary key bypass all those security measures?
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't, and that's the hook that pulls you in.
Totally. It's like this everyday object doing something extraordinary.
Exactly. It completely defies your expectations.
So this leads us to the core of what makes SCP-005 so anomalous.
Right. Its ability to unlock anything.
And they're not exaggerating when they say anything.
No, they're not. The document explicitly states that SCP-005 can open any and all forms of lock.
Wow.
Whether it's a simple mechanical lock, a complex digital lock, it doesn't matter. This key can open it.
That's kind of terrifying when you think about it.
It is, because it means that any form of security that relies on locks is essentially useless against this key.
So vaults, safes, doors, anything.
Anything. You name it, if it's locked, SCP-005 can open it.
That's a lot of power for one little key.
It is, and what's even more intriguing is that the document explicitly states that the origin of this ability is completely unknown.
So they have no idea where it came from or how it works.
None whatsoever.
It just adds another layer to the mystery.
It makes you wonder, is this some lost ancient artifact? Is it the result of some advanced technology?
Right. Or maybe something even weirder.
Exactly. The possibilities are endless.
So with an object this powerful, you'd expect some serious containment procedures.
So they're not going to just leave it lying around.
And what have they done to contain it?
Well, the first thing to note is that they classify SCP-005 as safe.
Safe.
Which means it doesn't pose an immediate threat as long as it's properly contained.
Okay, so it's not like some monster that's going to break out and cause havoc.
Not exactly. The danger with SCP-005 is more about its potential for misuse.
Right, because if it falls into the wrong hands.
Exactly. It could be used to cause all sorts of trouble.
So even though it's classified as safe, they're still taking it very seriously.
Oh, absolutely. The special containment procedures outline some pretty strict protocols.
Like what?
Well, for starters, removing SCP-005 from its containment requires approval from Level 4 personnel.
A level 4, that's pretty high up the chain of command, right?
It is, which suggests that they understand the potential risks involved even with a safe classification.
So this isn't something you just borrow for a quick errand.
No, definitely not. And the document goes on to outline some very specific restrictions on its use.
Okay, what kind of restrictions?
Well, they do allow it to be used to replace lost security passes, but only under strict supervision.
So they're not letting it out of their sight.
Nope, not for a second.
And then there's the part that I found kind of funny.
Oh yeah, the additional notes.
Yeah, they explicitly state that SCP-005 is not to be used for things like fixing vending machines, opening personal lockers, or taking home as a spare key.
Right. It's like they're trying to anticipate any potential for misuse, even the most mundane ones.
It's almost like they're dealing with a mischievous child who needs constant supervision.
Well, it does highlight the fact that even seemingly harmless anomalies can disrupt their operations in unexpected ways.
So they have to be vigilant.
Exactly. They can't let their guard down even for a second.
So we have this key that can open anything locked down under tight security, but then things get really interesting when we get to Appendix A.
Ah, yes, Appendix A. This is where the whole story takes a very unexpected turn.
What happens in Appendix A?
This is where they start exploring the possibility that SCP-005 might be sentient.
Sentient.
Yeah,
Ooh.
or like it might have some level of consciousness or awareness.
That's a pretty big jump from just being a really good key.
It is, and it's based on some very interesting experiments that they conducted.
Okay, what did they do?
So they set up a series of tests where the function of a lock was disguised.
Disguised how?
Well, they would do things like hide the lock,
Right.
cover it up, or obscure its purpose.
So the people involved wouldn't immediately recognize it as a lock.
Exactly, and what they found was that when the lock was disguised, SCP-005's success rate dropped significantly.
Really? By how much?
It plummeted to around 50%.
Wow. So it's not like it just stopped working altogether.
No, it's more like it needed to understand that it was interacting with a lock in order to function properly.
So it wasn't just a matter of the key physically fitting the lock?
No, it seems like there was some level of cognitive processing involved.
So like the key had to recognize the concept of a lock.
Exactly, and that's what led the researchers to tentatively classify SCP-005 as sentient.
Wow. That changes everything.
It does. It takes this object from being a simple tool to something much more complex.
So if it's sentient, what does that mean for its containment?
Well, that's what they're still trying to figure out. Appendix A mentions that they've initiated further studies into SCP-005's cognitive abilities.
So they're trying to understand how it thinks, how it perceives the world.
Exactly. And there's one particular detail in Appendix A that I found really fascinating.
What's that?
They clarify that the issue wasn't about the key failing to recognize specific types of locks.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't like it suddenly stopped working on padlocks or deadbolts or anything like that.
So what was the problem?
The problem arose when the very nature or purpose of the locking device was obscured.
So it's not about the physical form of the lock, but about its intended function.
Exactly. It's like the key needs to understand that this thing is meant to secure something.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
It suggests that SCP-005 has some level of comprehension of the concept of security.
So it's not just mechanically unlocking things, it's making a decision about whether or not to unlock something based on its understanding of what that thing is for.
It seems that way, and that opens up a whole new set of questions about the nature of consciousness and how it might manifest in unexpected ways.
So we've gone from a simple key to a potentially sentient entity that understands the concept of security.
It's been quite a journey, and it really makes you think about the assumptions we make about the world around us.
Like what kind of assumptions?
But we tend to think of objects as being inanimate, passive things.
Right, they just exist, they don't think or feel.
But SCP-005 challenges that assumption. It suggests that there might be more to objects than meets the eye.
That maybe there are hidden properties or interactions that we don't fully understand.
Exactly, and that's what makes this whole deep dive so compelling. It forces us to re-examine our understanding of the world.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into SCP-005, let's recap what we've learned.
Okay.
We started with this seemingly ordinary key from the 1920s, but then we discovered its extraordinary ability to open any lock.
Any lock, mechanical or digital?
We explored the Foundation's strict containment procedures, highlighting the potential risks even with a safe classification.
And the specific restrictions on its use.
And then we delved into Appendix A, where the whole story took a very unexpected turn,
Yeah, the possibility of sentience based on its failure to open disguised locks.
which has led to ongoing research into its cognitive abilities.
It's a great example of how a simple concept can unravel into something much more complex and thought-provoking.
And it leaves us with this lingering question: what other seemingly ordinary objects around us might have hidden properties or interactions with the world that we haven't yet grasped?
It's a fascinating thought, isn't it, that there might be so much more to the world than we realize.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder what other secrets are out there just waiting to be discovered.
That's the beauty of exploration, isn't it? The constant pursuit of the unknown.
And that's what we do here on these deep dives.
We dive into the strange, the unusual, the unexplained,
And we come out the other side with a new perspective on the world.
a little bit wiser, a little bit more curious, and maybe even a little bit more afraid of keys.
Maybe just a little bit. So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep an eye out for those seemingly ordinary objects that might just be hiding something extraordinary.
See you in the next deep dive.
Bye, everyone.